Hey, it's Chris. I've been thinking a lot about the iPhone 14 Pro's brand new Dynamic Island, aka the pill-shaped cutout that houses the TrueDepth camera system that comes to life. Here's something truly brilliant. Apple has turned a potential con, this unusable black pill-shaped cutout out of the display, into a potential pro, something that people not only want to have, but will actually be willing to pay extra for. This is amazing to me for 3 reasons. Now follow along with me. If you're like, wow, there's something about that Dynamic Island that's just really cool, but I can't put my finger on it, we're gonna go through it. Reason number 1 for me is convenience. With iOS 16, Apple introduced a feature called Live Activities to the lock screen. So now things like sports scores or the status of an Uber ride would appear automatically right in front of your eyes on the lock screen. And then here comes the Dynamic Island, which is like Live Activities, but on steroids, and it's everywhere else, not just confined to the lock screen. So the very information that you either want or need will automatically surface itself within the Dynamic Island, even if you're using an app, which is basically the epitome of convenience. So this act of information coming to you and you not having to go to it to seek it out means less digging around inside of apps, which also equates to less context switching, which can be a major productivity killer. So being informed without having to be pulled away from what it is that you're doing is brilliant upon brilliant upon brilliant. But the convenience doesn't stop there, because you'll notice that the Dynamic Island unhides controls that were previously buried in other apps or in Control Center, like music controls. And faster access to things is definitely more convenient. So these music controls are a good example of consolidation. The things that you need are all put into one place, whether it's alerts or notifications or activities. These things all have a central place to exist, sort of like a junk drawer that's always organized. And the thing that you need just pops right out, and when you're done with it, the drawer slides back, and when you need it again, it comes back out, but it has just the thing that you need at just the right time. Then it puts itself back away. Consolidation, convenience.
The result being an entirely new and intuitive way to interact with the iPhone. One that truly blurs the line between hardware and software. We're calling it the Dynamic Island.
The second reason that I would describe the Dynamic Island as really exciting, maybe even amazing, is because it's one of those only Apple things. And I actually mean that in 2 different ways. Like take Dell and Windows, or Samsung and Android. When you only make the hardware or the software, not both the hardware and the software, it's really hard to get this deep level of integration and creativity like you're seeing with the Dynamic Island. So you look at the pill, the island, so to speak, and you forget that there's this camera stashed away in there. That's what's being camouflaged in the first place, and it completely slips your mind. That's the hardware. But then you see some information pop up and you realize, oh yeah, this hardware is wrapped up in some software. And then it grows and shrinks and morphs, and you can touch it and control it, and that is an experience. That's the something in between the hardware and the software. And on top of that, as Apple says, this is their wording, not mine, it's easy, intuitive, and delightful. Now, I haven't tried it yet, so I can't call it delightful at the moment, but you look at it and undeniably, there's something fun about it. It's got a personality, and when you can delight your customers with something surprising like this, that's a winning formula. It's one of those magical Apple feeling things. Now, before we go on, let me just mention, whether you're getting iPhone 14 Pro or just a 14, or you're hanging on to your 13 or 12, and you want to make it look or feel a little bit more new or different than what everybody else has, you can check out the Daily Tech wallpaper packs, which I'll link up down below for you. Also, I've been working on a productivity course just specifically designed for Apple users. So if you want to get more done and have less burnout, that course is going to be coming out in the next 2 to 3 months probably, and there's a sign up link down below. You can drop me your email and I'll just ping you when it's live, no spam. So make sure to get signed up. Now, the third reason why I personally find the Dynamic Island to be amazing or cool is all there in the name, Dynamic Island. And actually people are arguing about the name. Is it stupid? Is it cool? Is it clever? I actually think it's pretty apt. And what I mean by that is you have this pill shape swimming around, floating around, right, in this sea of display. And if anything, it's actually more of a volcanic island based on how Apple's describing it, because Apple describes it as being kind of liquid in the way that it morphs and moves and things kind of bubble up to the surface as you need. It's always changing shape sort of like a volcanic island. I think of it as a volcanic dynamic island. But basically that pill shape is a dead zone at the top of your display. But here comes Apple and they're like, you know what? Let's actually put that area to use and not just try to mask it with some dark backgrounds. Like, let's acknowledge it and let's bring it to life. As long as there's gonna be an island, might as well be inhabited. So camera on notification, stick it in the pill. AirPods are connected animation, stick it in the pill. Face ID animation, active phone call or voice memo animations, AirDrop notifications, stick it all in the pill, bring the pill to life. Even the lock icon on the new always on display, that lives in the pill. And the bottom line is Apple turned this dead zone at the top of the display into usable space. They made it count. Making it count is one thing, but it's that dynamism, that shape-shifting, that multitasking, that's what has us all so impressed, I think. This is sheer creativity. It's something novel and it's unique, it's different. You don't see that a lot these days. So Apple has a phone that looks just basically identical almost to what we've seen for several years now, but yet here's this totally new experience. So the notch, the pill, the hole punch, all these different companies have experimented with different island shapes, or they just tried to eradicate the islands altogether, but not Apple. So kind of like Fortnite players jumping out of a plane, Apple's dynamic island gives our information a place to land and an environment to interact with. So those are three reasons: the convenience, the only Apple aspect, and the idea of an island that's not vacant but inhabited. Those three things, those are why I think people are finding the dynamic island pretty compelling, really interesting. But I have three other thoughts that I just want to throw at you real quick before we wrap things up here. The first is just something I have to point out here. Apple says this is the biggest change to the face of the iPhone since we went all screen. All screen, Apple's been saying this for a while, but that's like saying the ocean is all ocean. But you've called this thing a dynamic island. If there's an island, it's not all ocean, you know, just technically, I'm just saying it's not all screen. And the second thing is this really brings up an interesting question, namely, what is an app? Because it's not just something you launch from your app library anymore. Off the top of my head, I feel like a good definition of an app these days is just information or an experience that is delivered to you wherever that makes sense, which could be any number of places now. Sometimes that shows up as a watch complication. Sometimes it shows up in CarPlay. Sometimes it shows up in audio format in your AirPods or your HomePod, or yes, now dynamically on an island. It's just kind of interesting to think about how apps or app experiences have changed so much since the App Store was launched. And the third thought, which is just something interesting to think about, we may have an answer to this within about a month here if there's an iPad event coming in October, but will the dynamic island make its way to the iPad Pro? And what would that look like? And would it be a plus, a benefit? All right, before we turn off the lights, since the party's about over, here's something that will spark a discussion down in the comments, I'm sure. And that is this: does the dynamic island count as a real innovation, a cool, actually useful new feature, or does it fall more under the umbrella of what some people would refer to as a gimmick? Which is initially, when I first saw it, like in the first few nanoseconds that I realized what it was, I thought it was gonna be some kind of a gimmicky thing, but I ended up changing my mind. And here's the thing that made me change my mind. Ask this to yourself. Would you rather have this on your iPhone, or would you rather not? I think a lot of people, maybe even most people, maybe most people by far, my guess would say they would rather have it. And this is funny because this is gonna debut on a Pro device, but eventually as the pill shape makes its way down, trends downstream to the rest of the cheaper iPhones, it's just gonna be how things are moving forward. But for this year at least, I think we might be moving into some uncharted territory, whereas just a couple of days ago, people were saying like, well, why does the iPhone still have this notch, or this pill, anything up there at all? And that might be flipping around to where other people are gonna be like, well, why doesn't Samsung or Google have something like what Apple's doing with their notch/pill? Why don't they have a cool interactive island, that houses all these notifications and alerts? It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? That's it for today's video. Don't forget to check out our wallpaper packs. They're linked up down below. Get yourself signed up for that productivity course. It's coming out. I'm so excited about it. I really do think it's gonna be life-changing. We also have a podcast. It comes out every Friday. If you like the vibe of this video and you wanna just hang out, talk about Apple stuff and what's new with Daily Tech, That's a good time too, I'm told. You can check the reviews if you're not sure. Also, the last thing is we have a newsletter. I'm really excited about it because it puts your app and accessory discovery on autopilot. Cool stuff just shows up once a week in your inbox on Fridays, and you're like, wow, why didn't I sign up for this before? Don't make that mistake. Get signed up today. That's it though. I'll catch you in the next video. Later.